Hi, Shabbat Shalom to everybody. I hope that these days have been good days, a little less stressful than usual because of time off from work for those of you who are still working. In any case, I wanted to just approach an idea from our Parsha that I think is an important one for us to consider as Jews in this modern world. This is the story of the reunion between Jacob and Joseph, between Joseph and his brothers, and it ends with them coming from Canaan and moving to Egypt. Canaan was in the midst of a famine, but in Egypt there was water. There's always water in the Nile Delta. Joseph sets them up in a land called Goshen, which is separate from where the majority or where most Egyptians were living. He sets them up there because it's in the Nile Delta, and there it's fertile and there's always water to be had. It was not dependent on rain as it is in the land of Israel. And there they do very well. They're shepherds. And as shepherds, they're able to graze their flocks and they have plenty to eat and much to sell. There's a question in our tradition and throughout generations as to whether or not a strategy, which we'll call the strategy of Goshen, really works. The strategy of Goshen is to say that Jews should live separately from non-Jews. For hundreds of years, we were placed in ghettos in Europe. And I think by the time of the Enlightenment, we were dying to be free, to get away from the ghetto, to be able to breathe the air of free thought and free ideas and living amongst the nations of the world. And we succeeded at that. But what we found, and especially when we came to America, is that getting out of Goshen or getting out of the ghetto had with it some challenges. In the 50s, we saw the challenge as being intermarriage. We saw the challenge as assimilation, and Jewish life was weakened. And so what happened, ironically, is that Jewish communities, especially among certain segments of our population, began to create their own ghettos. Once again, they weren't enforced by governments, they weren't enforced by anti-Semites, but rather Jews wanted to live Jewish lives amongst Jews and amongst Jews only. That too, though, has dangers because we become suspect. We insist on our difference. And not only that, we become suspect of others. We ourselves start to suspect the others because they're different than us and they live differently. I think as part of a conservative congregation in this country, we have to understand that balance and be able to live amongst other people and affirm Jewish lives, to be able to live the richness of Shabbat, to pay attention to what we eat because we're Jewish, live Jewish family lives and Jewish family values, and still be amongst other people. I think it's the only way that we survive in this world and that we move forward. The historical experiences of our people show us that. Anyway, there are two different ways of looking at it, and I recognize that. And there's always different ways of looking at the text of Torah. So let me just end once again with an invitation. On Thursday, January 9th at 2 o'clock, we have two wonderful people coming to speak about their experiences debating Torah. One is Rabbi Dov Linzer, who's an extraordinary rabbi from New York, and the other is Abigail Pogrobin, who's a journalist, a Reformed Jew, a former president of Central Synagogue in New York City. They did a podcast, and then they wrote a book, It Takes Two to Tango, and Two to Torah, and they'll be here. So come see us, 2 o'clock on Thursday. Between now and then, I'll see you in Shul. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.